What if one of the greatest kingdoms of the ancient world was not hidden in Egypt, Greece, or Rome, but in the deserts of Sudan, where pyramids still rise from the sand? Long before many history books gave it a proper place, the kingdom of Kush stood along the Nile River in a land once called Nubia. Today, this region lies mainly in northern Sudan and southern Egypt. It was a world of golden deserts, green riverbanks, rocky cataracts, temple mountains, and trade roads that connected Central Africa with the Mediterranean world. Kush was not a small shadow beside Egypt. It was a power in its own right. Its story reaches back to the city of Kerma, one of Africa's earliest great urban centers, which flourished for many centuries before 1500 BCE. Kerma grew rich from cattle, farming, craftwork, and trade. Its people made fine pottery, built large mud brick structures, and controlled important routes along the Nile. Egypt wanted what Nubia had: gold, ivory, ebony, incense, cattle, and access to Africa's inner lands. For centuries, Egypt and Kush traded, copied from one another, competed with one another, and sometimes fought for control of the same river. But Kush did not disappear. It watched, learned, survived, and waited. After Egypt's new kingdom weakened around the 11th century BCE, a new Kushite power rose farther south, near Napata and the sacred mountain of Jebel Barkal. To the Kushites, this mountain was not only stone, it was a holy place connected to the god Amun, a sign that kingship itself had chosen their land. Then came the moment that still feels almost unbelievable. In the 8th century BCE, a Kushite king named Pai marched north from Nubia into Egypt. Egypt was divided among rival rulers, but Pai saw himself not as a destroyer, but as a restorer. He believed he was bringing order back to the land of the pharaohs. His victory was recorded on a great stone monument known as the Victory Stela. From the south, Kush had entered the heart of Egypt. This was the beginning of Egypt's 25th dynasty, often remembered as the rule of the Kushite pharaohs. Kings from Nubia now wore the crowns of Egypt. They ruled from the Nile Valley, honored Egyptian temples, restored old traditions, and built monuments in both Egypt and Kush. Among them was Taharka, who ruled from about 690 to 664 BCE. His name was known from Nubia to Egypt and even into the wider world of the Near East. For a time, Kush united a huge stretch of the Nile from deep in Africa toward the Mediterranean. It was one of the most remarkable political achievements of the ancient world. Yet, in many classrooms, this chapter is only a footnote. The Kushite rule of Egypt did not last forever. Pressure from the Assyrian Empire pushed the Kushite kings back south. But this was not the end of Kush. It was a transformation. The center of power slowly shifted toward Meroe, a city between the Nile and the Atbara River. Here, Kush became something even more distinct. Meroe was not simply Egyptian in style. It blended African, Egyptian, and later Greco-Roman influences into a culture of its own. At Meroe, the desert still holds rows of steep, narrow pyramids. They are smaller than the famous pyramids of Giza, but they are hauntingly beautiful. Many served as royal tomb markers for kings and queens. Some still stand with broken tops, scars left by treasure hunters in the 19th century. Others rise like dark triangles against the red sand, silent witnesses to a kingdom that refused to vanish. Kush also became famous for ironworking. The area around Meroe had access to ore, wood for fuel, and trade routes. Archaeologists have found evidence of workshops and industrial activity, showing that this was not just a land of temples and tombs, but a place of skill, production, and power. Another mystery remains in the writing of Kush. The people of Meroe used their own script, now called Meroitic. Scholars can read many of the signs, but the language behind them is still not fully understood. Stone inscriptions speak across 2,000 years, yet much of what they say remains locked away. The kingdom left us its voice, but not all of its meaning. And Kush that powerful queens. In the Meroitic period, royal women could hold great authority. One of the most famous was Amon-Irenas, a Kandake, or queen, who ruled in the 1st century BCE. When Rome took control of Egypt, Kush did not simply bow. Ancient sources describe conflict between Kush and Roman Egypt, followed by a treaty that allowed Kush to keep its independence. For more than 1,000 years, Kush adapted to changing worlds. It faced Egypt, Assyria, Rome, desert climates, shifting trade, and internal change. By the 4th century CE, the Old Kingdom faded, and new Nubian kingdoms later rose along the Nile. But the memory of Kush never truly died. It remained in pyramids, temple walls, royal names, buried jewelry, broken statues, and unread words carved into stone. The forgotten kingdom of Kush reminds us that history is not only written by the places that become famous. Sometimes greatness stands quietly in the desert, waiting for someone to look closer. Egypt had pyramids, Rome had roads, Greece had legends, but Kush had all the marks of a great civilization: cities, kings, queens, temples, trade, writing, art, industry, and a story powerful enough to cross thousands of years. And perhaps that's the real mystery of Kush, not that it existed, but that so many people were never told how great it was. If you enjoy stories like this, please follow for more hidden history and untold stories from around the world.